Game of Thrones, Season 8, United States after overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi, Elon Musk's father. These are all things that pulled out too early. But do you know who else pulled out too early? Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Eagle of Dagestan. 29-0, 13-0 UFC record, right? And we currently have a champion who is the champion at lightweight right now, who is also talking about retiring early, in Ilia Topuria. Now, I started thinking to myself, Islam versus Ilia is probably never going to happen since Islam is moving to 170. And that is something that we have to come to terms with, that we will probably never get this fight. It will go down as one of those fights that's like, this is the greatest what if of all time. What would have happened, right? That's probably what's going to happen. But I don't want to talk about Islam versus Ilia. I want to talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Ilia Topuria. I want to do a full fight breakdown of how this fight would go, who I think would win, and how they would win. So Tony has died. I'm going to be breaking down Khabib versus Ilia Topuria. Let's get straight into it. So Ilia Topuria is, first and foremost, he is a striker. And not only is he a striker, he is a boxer with explosive power like we have never seen before. When this guy hits people, they go to fucking sleep, all right? Nobody has knocked out Charles Oliveira out cold. This guy slept Volkanovski out cold. And this guy even knocked out Max Holloway out cold, who has never even been dropped before in the UFC prior to that fight. So Ilia Topuria, probably the most explosive fighter we have seen at the lighter weight classes. And not only is he the most explosive, but he's also the most precise. You know, I feel like if you compare Ilia's power compared to someone like Chandler or Dustin or Gaethje, he probably comes in similarly in terms of just straight raw athleticism, like power-wise. But the way that he is able to just put people out is because when he hits people, he's so precise. Hits them right on the tip of the chin. Hits them right where they don't see it. This guy, when he hits people, he knocks them the fuck out, all right? Now, on the other end, we have Khabib Nurmagomedov. He is obviously a highly elite grappler, and what he does best in his fights is pressure. He pressures people forward, he makes people walk backwards, and he gets people against the cage. And once he gets you against the cage, it's game over, okay? He gets you against the cage, he takes you down, and then he mauls you. And that is kind of what Khabib's entire game plan is fucking threaten takedowns out in the open, threaten striking, get people against the cage, and then once you get them on the cage, take them down, and then destroy them on the ground, whether that be by submission or ground and pound. So that is Khabib's style. Let's look at their records, all right? Khabib has the win over Dustin. He has the win over Conor. He has the win over Gaethje. He has the win over RDA. Ilia, he has the win over Bryce Mitchell. He has the win over Volk. He has the win over Max. And he has the win over Charles Oliveira at lightweight. These guys are two elite fighters, and let's see how their striking would line up with each other, right? So, Ilia. I think that the main advantage in this fight for anybody, if anybody has a strongest advantage in this fight, I think it's Ilia Topuria when this fight is on the feet. We look at Khabib's fights, even the Gaethje fight, which was his last fight, which he dominated. Gaethje was landing crazy leg kicks on Khabib, and not only that, he was landing cleanly on Khabib Nurmagomedov. One thing that I'd like to point out in the Gaethje fight with Khabib is how much he was getting hit, but how much he was absorbing those strikes. So he was getting hit by Gaethje, but he was taking them like nothing. Like it was doing nothing to him. Same with the Conor fight and the Poirier fight. Both Conor and Poirier both landed really, really good shots on Khabib in their fight. At one point, like Dustin hit Khabib, had him walking backwards for like 30 seconds. Conor famously won the third round, I'm pretty sure, in his fight against Khabib. And in those fights as well, when this fight is in open space, Khabib does not take these people down. Conor stuffed every takedown that was out in the open. Dustin also stuffed every takedown that was in the open. And even Gaethje, he stuffed a takedown in the open. What Khabib has to do to defeat you is push you against the cage and take you down against the cage. And that was what he's so good at, is cage grappling. But the problem with Khabib's style when going into a fight with Ilia Topuria is that you cannot pressure Ilia Topuria. You cannot be in middle range with him, because if you are going to get knocked the fuck out. Plain and simple. You look at Khabib's fights, his striking is mediocre. It's effective. It gets the job done. It's good striking for MMA. But I think we can all agree that Gaethje, Dustin, and Conor were all better strikers than Khabib. All right? So we admit that Khabib's striking on an elite level is mid, and that he needs to get the fight to the cage in order to win. The problem is, in order to get Ilia to the cage, you have to back him up. And how does he do that? He can threaten takedowns, and he can do some striking of his own. But if Khabib does striking of his own, he's going to get knocked out. It's against Ilia Topuria, who's not only just showed that he is a great counter striker now in his fight against Oliveira, but he also is great in the middle range. And that's where Ilia wants the fight. On the feet, in the middle range. I don't think that Khabib would be able to pressure Ilia effectively. Now, why do I say this? You look at the Conor fight with Khabib. They are similar styles, not styles, but they are similar builds. So I know a lot of people would be saying Khabib has the size advantage over Ilia. He could have fought at 170 at one point. Ilia's a fucking midget at 155. Khabib's going to be able to pressure him forward. But I don't think he would be able to, man. I think that if Khabib tried to pressure Ilia on the feet, he would get knocked out. And I think that if he tries to shoot takedowns in the open, Ilia would stuff them all. Now, in the Charles Oliveira fight versus Ilia Topuria, in the beginning of the fight, Charles Oliveira has double underhooks on Ilia Topuria. I don't know if you guys know what grappling is, but having double underhooks on someone basically means you're about to take him down. Ilia Topuria manhandled Charles Oliveira when he had double underhooks on him and threw him to the ground like a bitch and started putting a crucifix on Charles Oliveira. Now, I know what you're going to say. Oliveira has had weaknesses in the wrestling his entire career. Look at his fight with Arman specifically. Look at the fight with Oliveira. He has a tendency to pull guard, which he does. But if Oliveira can't take Ilia down when he has the best position on him, the most favorable position, then how is Khabib going to be able to do the same thing against the cage, mind you? Oliveira had Ilia against the cage, double underhooks, and could not take him down. So, and not only that, okay, even in the Bryce Mitchell fight, which is a lesser polished version of Ilia, almost 3 years ago at this point, in the Bryce Mitchell fight, Bryce Mitchell was able to take Ilia down a couple of times. But ultimately, Ilia was able to get back up from those takedowns and have effective wrestling of his own. And even ended up submitting Bryce Mitchell after he hurt him on the feet. Bryce Mitchell is kind of like a shittier version of Khabib if you really think about it. You know, he's like country Khabib. You know, brother, I'm a fucking country Khabib. And we saw what Ilia Topuria was able to do to Bryce Mitchell. He choked him unconscious, okay? And this is another point that I want to make. That Ilia Topuria, his first 8 wins in the sport of MMA came from grappling and submissions. That is right. Ilia Topuria started his career as a grappler, as a Greco-Roman wrestler. Khabib never fought someone in the UFC that was going to be shooting takedowns on him. Okay? And that is a fact. Khabib never really fought someone that was going to threaten offense on the grappling department in his fights. And so, when you really think about this fight, it's like Ilia Topuria is as close as you can get to a perfect fighter. And not only that, I feel like he is a stylistic matchup for Khabib, because Khabib His entire plan is to pressure Ilia, and you cannot beat Ilia by pressuring him. You look what happened to Oliveira. He tried to just go out there and fucking put his head on the silver platter. Oliveira and Khabib have similar head movement, but Khabib has a better chin. But he does not have a better chin than Max Holloway, who got knocked the fuck out by Ilia. You know? This is the point that I'm trying to make, is that I feel like stylistically, Khabib's entire game plan is to pressure you and to get you walking backwards. But Ilia Topuria is going to be coming forward himself. So they're going to meet in the middle. And when they meet in the middle and they strike, who do you think is going to hit who first? It's not Khabib Nurmagomedov. If you like the video, like, subscribe, do all that YouTube shit. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.